First of all, let me start by saying I think Francine is an incredibly sexy woman, but I don't see her in that way. Franny and I were co-workers and good friends. I can honestly say that we kept it at that level the entire relationship. She was my co-worker, like a tag team partner, as much as Chris and Bam Bam were, and I think she'd say the same thing. Now, that said, I was married at the time, and had I known things were going to turn out as they did with my now ex-wife, chances are pretty likely that I probably would have at least asked her out for a drink. I think she's a very beautiful woman, and I think she's a very cool lady as well. You know, she was a lot of fun to hang around with, but everything between me and Francine was always on the professional level. Even when we stayed together in the same rooms, we did that to throw the scent off of all the boys, because Paul didn't want the dirt sheets getting a hold of that it was just a gimmick or just something that was for television only. And so that's what gave a lot of gas, I think, to the rumors that circulated. And a funny side story of that is one time Taz and Perry Saturn, who were some of my closest friends in the dressing room, confronted me one night in the ECW arena, and they said, you know, you're a fucking hypocrite. And I said, why is that? And they said, well, you come here all the time talking about how much you love your wife and everything else, and then, you know, you hang out with Francine all weekend. And I said, you're right. You know, I couldn't very well smarten them up. And I said, you're right, but, you know, it's secret amongst the boys, right, that type of thing. But Francine and I have purely a professional relationship, although I think she's a very beautiful and a very sexy woman, and I think her husband is a lucky guy to have her, and her kids are lucky to have a great mother.
Now, speaking as the viewer in 1996 and 1997, when you two were paired together, the promos that you guys had, especially during the whole Gary Wolf angle and story, honestly, as a teenager, it literally made me want to, like, kill you, for one, the fact that you had Francine, two, the fact you did this to Gary Wolf. But like you said, you know, to throw the scent off, I mean, that was unbelievable, the chemistry you guys had. And now, was that something that was an instant chemistry, or was that something that you guys developed?
No, it was instant, and I think that's where Paul came up with the idea. When I had first come back from the WWF in late 96, I think it was, they were at Lost Battalion Hall in Queens, and for me, it was just being back home. It was like Dorothy going back to Kansas. I always loved ECW, never wanted to leave. I was just hoping to make more money someplace else, which didn't quite turn out. And when I came back, in the interim time, Francine had been hired, pretty much fresh out of wrestling school, and she was managing the Pit Bulls at the time, and she was extremely uncomfortable doing a promo, shaking like a leaf, and, you know, just didn't look comfortable on screen. So just instinctively, I went and pulled her aside and said, hey, just have fun with what you're doing. Don't think about how you're dressed or what you're saying. Just go out there and have fun. You're talking to the dressing room. You're all friends, you know. And Paul saw me do that and saw a chemistry between us that I was willing to teach her and you know, to sort of educate her in the ways of the wrestling business. And I think, I'm just guessing here, I don't know from Paul's standpoint, but I'm guessing when he saw the two of us together, he saw a chemistry, you know, a young guy and a young, attractive woman. It sort of went well together, and I'm sure the idea when it popped into his head to do the angle where she did turn on the Pit Bulls in the middle of the ECW arena after having that brutal match, and Francine double-crosses them and pulls her outfit down and has the black and gold tights underneath. It was vintage ECW television that worked in spades. And again, I don't think it hurt the fact that the two of us genuinely got along very well. We traveled together with Beulah quite often, because she and Beulah were very close. And the head of merchandising, Damian Farron, who unfortunately passed away 3 years ago this July, this month. And we had a great time on the road. I had a lot of fun. It was more like hanging out with your best buddies, for me anyway. I really enjoyed hanging out with her and teaching her about the business and working with her. And I think Paul saw it instantly that night in Lost Battalion Hall.